Hi there, and welcome to Studio SN, your place for card making, rubber stamping, and paper crafting tutorials. My name is Sara Naumann, and I'm so very glad you're here. Today I want to show you how to use Luna paste along with stencils to create some really fun accents for your cards. Now this area here you can see with this fun pattern, this is a stencil, and the white that's coming through here is Luna paste. So as I'm tilting this, I think you can see the shine here and that beautiful shimmer of the white Luna paste against the black cardstock. If you could touch it, you would feel there's also a really nice texture to it. So this process is really easy. Let's take a look. I'm going to move aside my card and bring in my stencil. Now the stencil is from Creative Expressions. It's the Crazy pattern. That's the name of the stencil. You can see it's got a fun all over design. It's not a very big stencil. It's about 4 1/4 by 3 inches going across. And it has an open edge. So I'll peel back this masking tape and you can see it has an open side on all 4 sides, which means that if I want to have straight edges, then I need to sort of mask it off, either with masking tape as I've done here, or washi tape or stencil tape. So Luna paste comes in a lot of different colors. The one that I'm using today is called Moonlight Pearl. It's a beautiful white. And the fun thing about Luna paste is that it is a texture medium, which makes it great for stencils, but it's also got some mica in it, which gives it a really soft shimmer and shine. It's got a luminescence to it. It also has a nice body to it. So you can see I've got it on my palette knife. It's not dripping off. It's not runny or anything, which makes it perfect for use with a stencil. So all I need to do is just apply this right onto my cardstock and just keep going until I've got all of that design covered. And I can let this sort of overlap that masking tape a little bit as well. And just smoothing this on. If you don't have a palette knife, you can also use like a plastic disposable knife. Those are good to have on hand. But a palette knife will really do the trick. So smoothing this on, kind of like frosting a cake. It's an easy process to do. And then you can sort of see that stencil coming through here. What I can also do is sort of scrape off any excess to keep this nice and level. And I'll get this all in here. Just a little bit there. And even just a bit here. It goes on really, really nicely. And I'll kind of scrape that away with the edge of my palette knife, put any excess back into the jar. And then I do want to make sure to clean off my palette knife pretty quickly. I've got a glass jar of water here so I can make sure that I don't have too much of that Luna paste drying on my stencil. And then I can just remove my masking tape and set that somewhere. And then pull off this excess little bit here. And then when I get ready to lift up my stencil, I want to make sure that I'm lifting straight up and not sliding it off. And you can see that beautiful design. I love how crisp and clean that detail is. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now I do need to let this set aside to dry, and the dry time will depend on the thickness of your Luna paste and probably also the humidity of where you live. I tend to let this sit for a couple of hours and sometimes even just overnight to make sure that I've got a completely dry area before I start using it on my cards. So that's going to be as easy as it gets for my background. Of course, I want to make sure that I can get my stencil cleaned pretty quickly as well. Now, the other thing I have going on in my card is a spattered background. Let me show that to you. So you can see it's actually quite faint, but it's just the back of my card itself. And that's a little bit more of the Luna paste too. This one is the Stellar Aqua. I love this color, so I'm always looking for ways to use that. Again, I'm going to use my palette knife and just scoop out a little bit of the Luna paste and just put it right down onto my craft sheet. I'm going to be using this as my palette. And then I'm going to grab my wet paintbrush, and I need to add a little bit more water onto my craft sheet here and use that palette knife to blend in the water because I want to make a watery mix of this beautiful Luna paste. That's going to spatter really nicely. When you're going to spatter any kind of medium, you do want to make sure you've got enough water in there to give it something to to spatter with. Sometimes it gets a bit blobby if you're just going straight from the jar or the bottle. So I'll add a little bit more water. It's always easier to mix this with the palette knife than it is to use the brush to mix this. And that's just because it can get a bit blobby in the brush bristles. So then I'll pick this up with my wet brush. And this is just a kind of standard craft paintbrush. And then I'm going to hold this. I've got the bristles kind of pointing down, and I'm going to spatter. Just run my finger along those bristles and spatter that medium on here. Now it's going to give me the same beautiful shine and shimmer, but it's also going to give me, on those larger blobs that you can see here, it's going to give me a little bit of texture as well. So you can spatter as much or as little as you want to. For my background, I just wanted to have a little bit of texture and dimension to coordinate with the front of my card. And there you can see I've got some really fun, very gentle misting on there. Now in real life, what I would do, of course, is use up the rest of this watery medium, probably simply press my cardstock right into it and have another background. What I happen to do, though, for the other portion of my card is to simply paint on some of this watery medium onto a piece of white cardstock. And that's just going to give me a really nice background to do some die cutting. And in this case, the die cut that I'm working with, also from Creative Expressions, is the Get Well Soon die. And that's what I used on the front of my card. So I'm going to bring back in the original card here. And you can see I've used that to die cut. I've also die cut a black piece of that same sentiment and then just layered them up together. So I've got a nice painted piece on here. I've got my stenciled sort of middle ground, and then my background is that beautiful spattering effect. And that's using just the two of those beautiful Luna Pastes, the Moonlight Pearl and the Stellar Aqua. And of course that fun, crazy stencil. So this is how you can use your Luna Pastes with stencils to create some really beautiful effects. Thank you so much for joining me today on Studio SN. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe to Studio SN on YouTube, and I'll keep you updated on the very latest stamping and card making techniques. In the meantime, please feel free to stop by my website, saranaumann.com. Thanks again for joining me, and I will see you again next week. I just have to put this leftover Luna Paste to use. So I grabbed a piece of leftover white cardstock, and I'm just going to do a quick direct to paper press on here and lift this straight up. And you can see I've got some really fun texture on this piece of cardstock. Apparently I just need to trim this down and let this dry. And I think I might actually have a really fun background for a card. And it looks like, yes, I even have a little bit more Luna Paste to play with. So although the video is done for today, I'm going to still keep working with my Luna Paste. Okay, see you next week.